Okay, welcome to our first video for linear equations. As I explained in our how to do our work from home video, this is where you need to write these notes out in your rule book. And so we have two separate books. We have one for rules and then one for our work. Okay, so you first need to watch the video, and because not all the writing is there at the moment, and I'll explain through it and I'll add little bits. Once you get to the end of this page, then you might want to pause it, and then you might copy this page out, and then you go on to the next page and do it. There's not too many notes, so don't worry. So here we go. We're going to start off with, we're talking about using pronumerals. So a pronumeral is a letter or symbol that stands for a number. So for example, if you have 4x, x, the letter x, is the pronumeral. So when we're using that letter x, at the time we don't know what it stands for. Maybe later they might say, well, what if x is 2, and so then you substitute that in. But at the moment we just don't know what x is. It's something, it'll be some number or something, stands for something, so we just leave it as x. But x, the letter, is the pronumeral. Now when we group a few terms together, so that means if you have a look at this, we've got 5x. 5x is called a term, and then this negative 3y is also a term, and this plus 2 is a term. Now when you put them all together like this, you'll see that we call this as an expression. So when we've got them all listed, when we say 5x minus 3y plus 2, that's an expression. So we have three terms in this expression, and so terms are separated by these signs plus or minus. So we can see there's a minus or a plus there, and they're separating it. So we have a couple of different terms that we need to learn. So if we have a look at this first one, the coefficient is the number in front of the pronumeral. So if you have a look here, 5 is the coefficient for this term. In the next one, negative 3 is the coefficient for that term there, and this one doesn't really have a coefficient, so it's when it's just a number like this at the end. This one's called a constant, so it doesn't have a letter on it. So that one's a constant, and as I said before, with the terms, these are still, we have three terms here. So a term is there. It'll have a number or a pronumeral and a number. So we have got a few other little words they might use. If we have a trinomial, that's something that has three terms. So my example up there is actually a trinomial because it's got three terms. If I have a binomial, I might have something with two terms, say something like that. And a monomial just means we've got a just one term. We might have y like that. Okay, a polynomial is an expression with many terms. So once we get over, say, three terms, we'll just call it a polynomial, and so on, because you could get lots of things like that. All right, not too crucial, but just in case they ask you with a question, they might say, set up a trinomial. That means you'll need to have three terms there, okay? It'll just help you with the questions. Okay, so on this page, we've got a few examples, or we've got an example to help us with answering some of the questions. So for the expression, and they've given this expression here. So here's my expression there. And it's an expression because it has all these different terms, and there's no equal sign. If we get an equal sign in our in our equation, so I'll give you an example. Say if you have 5x plus 2 equals 10, when there is this equal sign in here, that it means it actually becomes an equation. So when there is no equal sign, it's an expression. So there's no equal sign in this one here, so we're going to call that an expression. All right, so let's go look at our first question, A. It says, let's find the number of terms. All right, so I'm going to go, we're finding the number of terms here. So if I have a look, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to say there's 6 terms in this expression. All right, the coefficient, let's go to the next question. And it's asking, Okay, the next B is the coefficient of the second term. So if I look here, the second term is here. And when they're asking for the coefficient, remember that's the number in front of the letter. So we're actually going to take the sign with us. So we'll say that is -3. So then the next question, they're asking me for the coefficient of the last term. So we go down to this last term. That's this one here. So we're looking for the so I'm just going to write it down here. So what we've got is y squared over 7. So the letter is the pronumeral. So if you look here, y squared's the letter. And what we actually have, the number in front of this y squared is actually like saying 1/7, right? Because if we wrote 1/7 times y squared, we'd end up with y squared over 7. So essentially the number in front of this y squared is 1/7. And the number that's in front of the letter is called the coefficient. So this one's answer is 1/7. Now, the next question, they're asking me for the constant. Now, the constant is the one that just has just a number, and I can see that here. That's the 2. So 2. And the term with the smallest coefficient, now remember coefficient means the number. So if we look through all of them, now when they have a z, like see up here, this z, it actually has a 1 in front of it. And so does this, 1x squared over z. So, but we've already seen the one with the smallest, 1/7 would be the smallest, and we already saw that there. Or actually, we might even say -3. Let's change that, because -3 would become before is lower, so we might say -3. All right, now what's the coefficient of the x squared z? I already talked about that. When you don't have any number like can be seen, it's assumed a 1. So the coefficient of that is actually 1. Okay, we're going to get some questions like this. Now it says the process where we evaluate. Evaluate just simply means when you, another word you could say you're calculating it. Sorry, that spelling there. Calculating it, or you're working out the answer. That's all it means. So if you see something, evaluate, that's what that means. So we're working the answer out. Okay, so the process where we evaluate the expression. Now remember, we know the expression means we have numbers and letters together but no equal sign. So we're going to evaluate or work out this expression by replacing the pronumerals. So remember, they're the letters with known values. So they're going to give you what the letters are, okay? And that method is called substitution. So we can see it here in this question here. It says, example, evaluate the following terms. So we can look down here and we can see all these terms don't have an equal sign, so it's just an expression. And there's only one of them, so it's a term. If x equals 4. So all you're going to do is every time you see x, you're going to change that to a 4. So what I've got here actually is 3 times. Now I'm not going to write x, I'm going to say it's 4. Now they're also squaring that, so I'll go squared. So let's do that first. So 4 squared is 16. And then you do 3 times 16 and we get 48. Okay, now with the next one, now we've got negative, then we've got x, which is 4, but squared. So first you would square the 4, which is 16, and then make it negative. So that one actually becomes negative 16. With this one, we're just going to write the 5, and then when we see x, we'll put 4. Now with this is called a surd, or the square root symbol. And what we're going to do, so you can just do the sum underneath like normal. So 5 minus 4 is 1. And if you're not sure about this, what the square root means what was times by itself to get that number, which is actually 1. If you're a little unsure, you can use your calculator. We probably will give you nice ones that work out to be a nice whole simple number. All right, so here we've got the next question. They're asking us to use substitution in the formulas. So we got given this formula. There's a formula for voltage in an electrical circuit, can be found by using the formula V equals IR. So what they're saying is that the voltage is equal to I, which stands for current, times the resistance. So they want you to calculate V if I equals 2 and R equals 10. So all you have to do is you write out your formula, and then every time you see the I, you'll substitute it with the 2, and every time you see the R, you'll substitute with the 10. Now, when you have two letters next to each other, it's assumed it's timesing. That's why I've used times there. Okay, and then you just simply work out 2 times 10, so the voltage is 20. Now, it's asking me for the next one, calculate I if the voltage is 3 and the resistance is 600. So let's have a quick, this is a little bit harder, but what we're going to do is write out the rule and IR, then write out what you know. Well, you know B is 300. I you don't know, but R you know is 600. So you have to work out what do you times 600 by to get 300. So you would hopefully, because we haven't done solving equations yet, so you might not know the mathematical steps you could use. So let's just use our common knowledge. And if I times this by a half, or divide by 2, if I've got a half times 600, or which can be written as 600 divided by 2, that would give me 300. So therefore, now this is the symbol that's used by mathematicians to write therefore, we can say I must equal a half. Or if you want to write 0.5, you can write 0.5. Okay, so you need to now go on and do your questions from the table that I've explained what you do. You pick whether you're doing consolidate, build, or stretch, and then you complete your questions in your workbook.